Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Monday live stream. So we got a lot of things to go over in a short amount of time, so let's just jump right into it. So just like the thumbnail and title suggest, we're going to talk about this new upgrade for Bitcoin. Now, forgive the terminology. I know there may be some people here are like really super advanced as far as like nodes in the process of Bitcoin. Some people may not be. So forgive any of the language here as we talk about the upgrade that is going on with Bitcoin. And this has been actually debated over the last couple of a month or more, matter of fact. And I was asked this question, core or knots, and I was like, well, I don't really have an opinion too much. But I got to tell you, after reading this, things are looking to be a little bit more muddled. So here's what's happening. Bitcoin Core V30, or version 30, goes live, and it went live today. Either today or yesterday, as it launched update on Saturday, with the community split over its dramatic results. So this is what the V30 update actually is, and I think it's an important factor for Bitcoin, especially if you own it, which if you're watching this program, I'm pretty sure a lot of you do. So here's what's going on. The key changes brought forward in Bitcoin Core 30 are the introduction of optional encrypted connections between nodes for better privacy. Everybody likes that. That is fantastic. We'd like to see a little bit more privacy, especially when everything is open, but these are what we have actually bought into. An open and free decentralized ledger. And this is also the increase of the OP return data limit within Bitcoin Core software from 80 to 100,000 bytes. It's a lot of space, a lot more space, enabling a significantly larger amount of non-financial data to be embedded in Bitcoin transactions. And later on, it's going to talk about like, what if there's some kind of like illegal activity or illegal things that are embedded in these transactions? Who's going to be responsible for that? Who's going to be the one that said, hey, you know what, since you accepted it and these the data that you have in here is illegal, or God forbid, something grotesque or something within the transactions, whose responsibility is that? Is the person that actually takes it, the person that sends it, or is there some kind of intermediary? These are the things that are being debated right now, and I can kind of understand where they're coming from. But to release this new major version 27.x and older, of course, V30 is the new standard, V27.x and older are at the end of life and will no longer receive any types of updates. This is a huge shift in the data limit, which enables the development of more sophisticated and data-hungry dApps on the network. Interesting. dApps on Bitcoin. Is that what you think Bitcoin was built for? I'm just curious for everybody in the audience today. Was Bitcoin built for decentralized applications, some kind of like decentralized finance, something that you would see like on Ethereum or Solana or something like that? Or do you think it's more of like peer-to-peer transaction and store of value? Let me know how you see Bitcoin in the comments, and we'll talk about that when we get into the Q&A. So this has angered, of course, Bitcoin purists who argue that the network should be used only for financial transactions. Some see the update as a good thing, though. Arc Labs' Alex Bergeron states he intends to use all the traditional OP return space and will use it to make Bitcoin more like Ethereum, except better. Of course, this is what people are saying, like, hey, look, Ethereum came out and then Bitcoin can do more. So if it can do more, let it do more. But some are saying that's not the case. Others were like this one, not so optimistic. It could lead to blockchain bloat. Again, I think this is kind of like reminding me of 2017 when there was a Bitcoin Cash separation. And we wanted larger transaction sizes. Roger Ver kind of led that charge until he got stepped away. And now it seems like we're having more of this transaction bloat in the background. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different, but it just kind of reminded me of that. This has increased node operation costs and, of course, legal issues. And the one workaround that a significant number of node operators have already begun utilizing is knots. It enables them to enforce strict data size limits, such as 80 bytes on transactions, and you can't go all the way up to 10,000, just 80 or nothing. Essentially, it's you and Bitcoin and transactions, and that's all, no DeFi. As a hopefully temporary measure, run knots. I strongly recommend not upgrading to Core version 30. This is from Nick Szabo. He's one of the OGs as far as the Bitcoin cryptographers moving forward. And without adding safeguard to allow archival node operators to non-disruptively delete illegal content for which they will often be held criminally liable. And I don't know if this is a possibility, but what if you have some type of, I mean, heaven forbid, it's kind of like disgusting pornography that is put on for these different transaction bytes, or there is some kind of message in between those transactions, which is used for whatever you can think that could be. If that's the case, and again, who's going to be criminally liable? The one who accepted it, the one that posted it and used those node operators to send those transmissions. And as far as like who's upgraded or not, well, data shows that a significant number of node operators are utilizing NOTs software with data from Bitref, and there's currently 5,000 plus NOTs, representing almost a quarter of all Bitcoin nodes. So is this going to stop Bitcoin from transacting? No, really what it comes down to is, are they going to allow those 10,000 data points to be allowed in the transactions of every Bitcoin transaction? Or are they going to kind of just throttle it back down? It looks like everything's moving forward with V30, and NOTs is being run in the background by a quarter of the nodes, so we'll see what actually happens. I just find it interesting that as we move forward and we kind of figured out what Bitcoin pretty much was doing pretty well, which is a store of value, I think. And now we're trying to get back to, as far as like a peer-to-peer transaction measure, this could be a big thing. Anyhow, let me know what you think about that in the comments section. I wanted to kind of bring a little more technical stuff and get away from like the market stuff, but unfortunately it is inevitable. So here we go. The markets, not bad today. And we're looking at over a $4 trillion market cap. Congratulations. In 24 hours, Bitcoin's went up a whopping 1.2%. Watch out. Of course, over 7 days, it's down 8%. Ethereum is down 10%, and so on and so forth. BNB is, I think, doing one of the best as far as like for 30 days. But there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about it in a second. And then pretty much everything across the board today is doing pretty good. But that's because yesterday was just an awful, awful day. S&P 500 is down 1.5%, and looks like is it an all-time high? Pretty much. So congratulations, S&P 500 holders, all-time highs. And then, of course, for more bullish news, total spot Bitcoin ETF trading volume. This was this morning at 9:43 Eastern Standard Time. ETF trading volume surpasses 1 billion in the first 10 minutes of trading today. And now, what Watcher Guru was talking about was trading volume. So it wasn't just inflows, it was volume, ins, outs, stuff like that. But we can just see that as far as like inflow volume. Oh, this is for, excuse me, this is, no, that is correct, Bitcoin ETF. We can just see that as of this month, we almost had, I mean, 1 billion in 10 minutes is great, but again, it's just total volume. But 7th of October, we had almost 1 billion. 6th of October, 970 and $800 million worth. And that's just for BlackRock. Friday, 74 million. We'll see what Monday brings, but things are in the right direction. I don't know exactly how much inflow is versus outflow. I looked everywhere to find like the up-to-date stuff, but usually got to wait till the next day. But we can just see that as far as like what's going on and market cap, it's probably outpacing the outflows as institutions are getting more and more insight. And then also, speaking of ETFs and institutions, I've never heard of these guys, but apparently they have 2.3 trillion euros under management. So if you do like a conversion, it's like 2 trillion. So congratulations. $2 trillion a Monday to launch Bitcoin investment product. Now these guys are based in the EU. Institutional demand in Europe drives mainstream adoption. 2.3 trillion assets under management is preparing to enter the crypto ETF market. And there was a couple of announcements that were kind of interesting to say the least, but this was the most data I can see. So if you got somebody like BlackRock, 10 trillion assets under management, and they're the heavy hitters, and now you have a new one out of the EU to come in with 2.3 trillion, and they're going into Bitcoin investment products, probably ETFs. You're going to see that things are moving in the right direction for that part. But don't get too happy, because I'm going to show you something that is not looking good in a little bit. And then what was all this about? This was about tariffs as usual. China came out and said, you know, these earth metals, we're going to stop exports. We're going to put a lot of casings on it, so that it's going to make it more difficult globally to acquire these rare earth metals. And then, of course, Trump came in and said, you know what, 100% tariffs. And it kind of crashed. And then all of a sudden, China came out and said, whoopsie, you know what? Let's make that clear. We meant this, this, this. And then Trump was like, all right, well, we'll talk maybe at some point. But good news, Trump is on track to meet Xi Jinping in South Korea. And this is actually going to happen in late October. So looks like game on. Maybe we'll still see more of a bull market. If these guys would stop tweeting, it would be better. Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent said there were substantial communications between the two sides, between China and the United States, over the weekend. And more meetings were expected. So that Truth Social post, I guess, does have legs. So we'll see how well that goes. And that's great for the market, Bitcoin in general. And then to granularize that, to take a look at what we're talking about as far as like why was Binance doing so well? BNB coin, which everybody was very ticked off at a lot of these exchanges. Binance being numero uno for the ones that they believe is manipulation. And it does look like it, I'll be honest with you. But yet this morning when I woke up, I'm like, why is BNB coin at an all-time high? This is 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, why is this? Everybody's complaining about Binance, and this is their coin essentially, BNB. Why do they rocket that to its all-time high if they were saying that this was the exchange that was essentially doing all the manipulation? And it becomes like this. China's leading investment bank eyes a $600 million BNB treasury. And then, of course, token hits its all-time high. So traders hear about this like, oh, I got to get into BNB. So all this stuff about, I'm not going to read this, all this stuff about how like, this horrible exchange and their manipulation, but yet they'll go in there and buy it. That's what I see. Maybe I'm wrong is how I am interpreting this, but it looks like because a bank is coming in, one of the largest investment banks in China, they are going to make BNB their treasury in the crypto space. Because of that, people started to invest more into BNB and just say, you know what? A little manipulation is okay between friends. Make me rich. Maybe that's it. I'm not for sure. And then, of course, with that, I will give credit where credit is due. Binance Chain came out and said, look, if you were trading over the last couple of weeks, and especially for our Binance meme coins, which if you're into that, that's cool. Have fun. BNB Chain informed me to launch a $45 million reload airdrop with ecosystem partners. So this initiative will distribute $45 million in BNB to 160,000 plus user addresses who have traded meme coins recently over the past week, with the final amount of airdrop BNB being distributed randomly. So congratulations if you, I guess, lost some money or maybe gained a little bit. Looks like you're going to get an airdrop. More details will come out later. I kind of flabbergasted as to why they do that, but hey, that's great. And then on top of that, there was a post from the CEO of Binance, Richard Tang, and he actually addressed the issue with depegging and, of course, the manipulation that was going on, potentially, allegedly, in Binance. And he talks about the depeg. He says the depegs, I did not know this, involve three major assets: Athena's USD stablecoin, Binance's liquid staking token BN Sol, and wrapped Beacon ETH USDE, designed to stay at $1, drop to as low as 66 cents. So you have a stablecoin that's supposed to be stable, but becomes unstable. And because of that, at the peak of the sell-off, the crypto market lost over $670 billion in value due to auto liquidations on centralized exchanges such as Binance and Coinbase. Nearly 1.7 million traders were liquidated within 24 hours, wiping out, this is where that number comes from, $20 billion in open interest. Binance, and pay attention to this one, Binance reported one of the largest liquidation totals behind Hyperliquid and Bybit, with 1.4 billion in long and 901 million in short positions erased. So if you hear that, you're like, oh, well, Hyperliquid is the enemy then, because those are the ones that got erased a ton. Not so fast. This is from Jeff. Got Jeff's last name. Jeff He is the CEO of Hyperliquid. And he comes out and says, hey, look, don't blame us. We're a decentralized exchange, so we report everything. Those centralized exchanges, they don't have to, and they don't. And he states this: some centralized exchanges publicly document that they dramatically underreport user liquidations. For example, on Binance, Even if there are thousands of liquidation orders in the same second, only one is reported because liquidations happen in bursts. This could easily be a 100x underreporting under some conditions, source below, and he even gives an actual source. So I don't know how much liquidations were done yesterday. The number is 20 billion, but apparently it could be even up as high as 40 billion, or gosh, even higher than that, I think. So this is an ongoing story. I just know a lot of people lost a lot of money, and that's pretty much where we're at. Unfortunately, that's just how things go, especially as things happen. And then lastly, some somewhat murky news. Because of this price depeg, Binance conducted a review of the incident and will compensate all impacted futures, margin, and loan users within 72 hours. Compensation will be automatically distributed to the impacted users' accounts directly. So, hey, good for Binance stepping up and, saying, hey, we're going to try to pay things back. Now, some people say, well, who cares? They were responsible for it. And to that, I say, you might be right. And lastly, I know everybody's like, oh, that's great. It's a good story. Bull market's coming. Not so fast. This is from Arkham Intelligence. They do on-chain analysis. And looks like the Trump, as they labeled it, Trump insider whale is now shorting $340 million worth of Bitcoin. So this was the hyper unit bear who shorted 700 million of Bitcoin and 350 million of ETH right before Friday's market crash, meaning somebody knew something, and this person did. And he is now taking out a massive new short of 340 million. So take that information as you see fit. I just give you the info and you play with it. That's it for today. So look, if you like today's video, give it a thumbs up. So consider subscribing when we talk about it. It's time sensitive. Now let's do a little Q&A, and I want to try to answer all your questions to the best of my abilities, and then we'll get out of here and touch grass and all that great stuff. All right then, what are your questions? B People says, yeah, he's up like 2 million. Not bad. That short is BS. I can see that. Pump after extended tax date. Yeah, I believe that here in the United States, the Internal Revenue Service, they had 50% of the agents furloughed. So right now, if you have an extension, which expires on October 15th, just so everybody is aware, if you ask for an extension and you put it in today, it's a good chance it's not going to be thoroughly reviewed, as the IRS is going to get bombarded with people, and they only have half of the staff to do things. So we'll see how that works out. Rebecca Lee, Rob, did alts go home? Well, I know Ethereum did, because Ben keeps talking about it. But as far as like alts in general, I told you, I mean, no, I told you so. I hate that. I think if you look at what Bitcoin did during this time of these liquidations, I mean, it did drop like 10%, and it was a 20,000 candle. Gotcha, right? It's pretty big. But if you take a look at how much Bitcoin dropped as opposed to some of the blue chip altcoins, and even for the medium-sized cap, and we all know now, that these 4-year cycles, I don't care if they keep going on forever, and we do have an extended cycle, and we are in 2026. When things start to go sideways and then eventually go down, the alts will eat it harder than Bitcoin, obviously. So I'm going to tell everybody, I know you believe in your project, make sure it's a great project, because I think even if it's a great project and it's just fantastic, I think it's still going to lose a massive amount of value. So just be aware, because bull markets are here, and they might be extended for Bitcoin. That doesn't mean that altcoin is going to play that game too. We'll see. I don't know. Let's see. Tamura's got a good point. I think that short is a bait. Probably going to book near 105K, but then price parabolic all-time high before cycle ends. Ben T is in play. So maybe somebody put that in just to move something else. Maybe he went long someplace on another side, had a whole new account, a whole new wallet, and then wants to see what can happen. There's all different types of manipulation that these whales can do. That's why, for me, that's why we have these rules, right? These rules. number one rule, and this is where I think a lot of people went wrong, is that it says it's all gone, meaning never invest more than you can afford to lose. The people that got liquidated, it wasn't that they were, they were 50 or 100 or 1,000x levered. There was some leverage. I saw people at just 2 or 3x, and they were levered. And that's not that much. But what happens is that fluctuation of that price action, it can touch you quicker than if you're not levered up, obviously. And if you are playing the futures options and that hits you, it's all gone. You probably think to yourself, that price could never hit. But now we just saw 20%, 40%, 60% drawdowns. I got you. And that's why we have that rule there. The next one is everything's a scam until proven otherwise. 100% scams. Everything is. Even what I just told you. I could be totally BSing you. It's your job to do your research as best as possible. Go, Rob's full of it. That whole thing you said, nonsense. And that's good. Don't trust me. Verify me. Don't use exchanges as far as like leave things on there. I mean, we got to use it to off-ramp and on-ramp. But after that, Ledger, Tangem, my favorite. Stick those on a cold storage device, go in there. And then last two, don't use leverage. Just don't use leverage. Don't do that. I mean, you can, like I said, 2x, 3x, okay, but if you're gonna do 2 or 3x, why are you putting your whole entire life savings on futures? Why wouldn't you just do like, I don't know, a couple $100, 1,000, or if you're a baller, a couple 100,000, whatever you do, but why are you putting 9 million, 1 million, 500,000, everything in there? That makes no sense. And then, of course, take profits along the way. Those rules have worked pretty well so far. We'll see if they hold up. Da Vinci is like our crazy uncle. Yeah, but Da Vinci was the guy in 2013 telling everybody, hey, I know Bitcoin's like $100, but you should just buy a couple. And he was right. And Crypto Builder says anyone with whale FU money can very easily manipulate markets to their favor. It's true. That's why I never understood traders in this market. I'm like, I know you got TA, I know it works fantastic, and you're the greatest trader of all time, but I got to tell you, just buying and holding has done pretty well so far. And sometimes it sucks when you see the traders gloating and doing all the posts of their awesome trades. Like, I think I can do that. But then, like days like yesterday, remind me, you're not able to do that, Rob. So just stop thinking about it. American First. Rob, do you think this restart confirms cycle extension in 2026? Could happen. I mean, if you think the business cycle, like Raul Powell talks about, could see it, definitely. And it's not like, Jerome Powell is going to get replaced in roughly Q2 of 2026. So when he steps down, the next guy is going to be pretty much pro whatever Trump wants to do. But there's going to be some pretty massive rate cuts. So maybe we see it. Alchemist says, Trump doesn't even need to buy groceries. They are feeding his family and friends by cooking the books. Good one. Jimmy says, Rob, what I'm hearing about the Binance drops, some of the centralized exchanges use the data from Binance, which wiped out their users. Binance US and Coinbase didn't have the same level of deleveraging. So that's interesting. So they used the data from Binance, and Binance's data was incorrect. Those guys all got liquidated, maybe because of the DPEG or the Oracle that they were using was incorrect. Well, that's a bummer for a lot of people. So, again, I wonder really how much it comes down to, was it all tariff talk, or was it some tariff talk and then some whales manipulating? Or was it some people who maybe weren't even whales, and it was a collective just going, you know what? This looks like something that was going to drop the market. Let's just start shorting everything. And then the people that had longs just caught them by surprise. Not sure why people still trust Coinbase. Because it's what they're used to. I don't know. It's like the really bad American food that we have that makes us fat. I don't know why we trust it either, but it's what we grew up with. So Who knows? Rob, what are your thoughts on injectable versus competitors? I own a little bit of it. I know there was a big rally, and I hope it does well. I can't really tell you too much about it. As far as like its competitors, hopefully it works out for both of us. Most all pro traders will tell you to stay away from using high leverage. This event is why. You will win some, and at the end lose all the gains in the blink of an eye. It's a funny thing because a lot of these traders, they say, well, all they got to do is be right like 51% and just go in heavy and then win heavy. And I'm like, well, what if you're 49% right and then you go in heavy and lose heavy? Isn't that the same thing? They're like, don't worry about it. I'm just like, I'm just not gonna trade. Let's see. Over to Steve O. Rob, what's your stablecoin of choice? Kraken uses USDG. Thoughts on staking USDG on Kraken? I like Kraken, but I don't know what is going on behind the scenes in the collateral USDG. So I don't use it. If they give me rewards in USDG, I just transfer them into Bitcoin, and that's it. Stablecoins coming in, I'll probably use Circle, Circle's USDC, and Tether. At least with USDC, I mean, it's American-based. That part is good. People say, well, things are American-based. Yeah, but I think it's the current presidential administration wants to work with Americanized companies, and that's why I think Jeremy Allaire and Circle is probably going to do pretty well. Also, Tether is setting up shop in America. Paolo Arduino, how you say his last name. And, if they do well, I would just use those. And again, they're like 93% of 91 to 93% of all stablecoin transactions. So I'm just going to stick with those big guys, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, exactly. Coinbase is the only exchange that goes in every time there's high volatility. I did have a little bit of trouble with Kraken for one of my transactions. And people want to know, like, what did you buy during the dip? I was like, that's very easy. I bought Bitcoin, and I bought Ethereum, and I bought Dogecoin. People are like, why'd you buy Dogecoin? It was very simple. All I did is just looked at the screen. And I said, which one went down the most out of like the top 30? I was like, Doge going down like 24%. I'll just buy that. And worked out pretty well so far. Let's see. Also, hyperliquid shorts were automatically deleveraged. They couldn't even take advantage of the drop of the market when the positions were automatically closed. Well, that sucks. There was a great post about that. I can't find it, about automatic deleveraging. And it wasn't as vile and disgusting as people think it is. It rarely happens, but it does happen, and why. And basically, it came down to this. If there's going to be a buyer, there's going to be a seller. And at some point, when you're like a poker player and you go to table to table to table and you wipe everybody out, at some point there's no more money to go around. So you actually just say, okay, you got to step away with all your profits or all your losses. That's essentially what happened, which is a bad deal for a lot of people. Hype recovered quite a bit. Yeah, pal. Are my questions invisible? No. I just thought it was simple 3x. Sure. NFA Live is the best show. I believe that to be true. I am not biased on that, though. Let's see. Tariff talk just triggered the whole debacle. True. And of course, it's a pretty good way to publicly pin some kind of issue on that. Say, well, see, it wasn't us. It wasn't the whales. It was Xi Jinping from China and crazy Trump tweeting. They look at those guys. Don't look over here. Don't look over here, citizen. Let's see. George hates me. I did. Yeah, we all see you. Let's see. Sagely chimes in with some Knots versus Core. Regarding Knots versus Core, at the brink of what I see as true value appreciation to make life-changing money for those ordinary people who have been in the space for years, developers want to screw us over. Who knows? I wonder how that's going to work as far as like the bloat. If it's going to, it can't increase the block time per se, but can it slow down? Because even though like people say, well, it's every 10 minutes, Bitcoin, there has been times when not every time that a block has been mined every 10 minutes, it actually extends and there's like an ebb and a flow. So I wonder if this is going to increase that. I wonder if it's going to increase the price per transaction. But the big thing, of course, is the bloat of the block size. And how much can it actually do? I don't know. I think that'll put us squarely, maybe more into the store of value space. But then, of course, how is that going to interact with Lightning if it does even make a difference? Flagrantly obtuse, says Mr. Rob. What's your thoughts on T? People saying the bear market is here. They could be right. I mean, I think we were just in extreme fear yesterday. And we saw, I mean, if you take a look at what is the definition of a bear market, Investopedia lays it out pretty simple. It's a 20% drawdown in a specific amount of time. It's when market sentiment is at fear or extreme fear. And it's where the eventual outcome that you think is going to be bearish for the perceivable future. So if you look at those types of criteria, I can see where people say, yeah, I can see that, and especially with macro and who knows what it is. But then I come back to it and I say, yesterday's flash crash really showed us how fragile the market is, right? But again, was there any fundamental shift, right? Was there any quantum computer that came out and cracked all the cryptography? Was there a double spend? Then Vladimir Putin came out and said, surprise, I'm Satoshi Nakamoto, and I just shut everything down, and I just took my Satoshi Nakamoto wallets and sold everything, suckers. No, no, and no. That didn't happen. And then, of course, did we stop money printing? No. Are we going to raise rates in October 30th or whenever the Fed Reserve meeting is? Probably not. Probably going to cut rates. And then, of course, how is the global markets doing in general? Well, we're coming into all-time highs for pretty much everything in TradFi. So when I take a look at that, I'm like, I just don't see it as a bearish time in the next, towards the end of this quarter. I think we're doing pretty good, but that's how I see it. But other people will look at it and like some nameless traders out there, it's like, I just think that Bitcoin's going to probably touch 70,000. All right. Okay. Gotta go work. Love you all. Stay positive. That's right. Lone Wolf. Rob, when you plan on selling your Bitcoin, when a couple of different indicators hit or get close to being hit, there's that link in the description when I'm going to sell 80% of my crypto. This cycle, I want to sell between 25 and 50%. We'll see how things play out, but I got to sell some Bitcoin, but I'm selling all my alts. I'm selling all. It's going to be just a bloody day when I sell all of my worthless altcoins. And some do good stuff, but I think a bunch of them are kind of worthless anyhow. So yeah, when? Well, when we start to get to, like, we take a look at that MVRV Z-score, that'd be pretty good idea to take a look at. We take a look at the NUPL, that unrealized profit loss. Maybe take a look at a pi cycle top. Risk bands, I think, is pretty good. And a PO multiple. And we talk about those. Once they start to get close in the red zones, it's just time to start layering out. And that's coming. Let's see. Rob, I saw a video. Hey, Jean-Louis, always sending me good stuff. Saw a video of a Web3 programmer who lost more than 1 Bitcoin in his ledger. Wow. Fished probably by Lazarus, North Korea, but simply because he left his seed phrase in .text format on his PC. What a moron. Yeah, some people, you're a Web3 programmer, you put your seed phrase in a .text format on your PC. And I think these scammers are smart enough to run some kind of program that if they get access to your computer, because you're downloading things all day long, or you're going to some crazy websites, or doing something where like you're on a Zoom meeting or something, they probably have access to a bunch of these computers, and they probably just run a program and say, look for a text document, a Word document, notes document, where it has 12 words specifically in this order, and that's the only document there. And I'm sure they find a bunch of them and just plug them in and take everybody's money or everybody's crypto. Sad. Not that sad. Last hour of the New York cash trade. Yeah, 3 o'clock. What happened to all the states and their Bitcoin reserve? What happened to all the Bitcoin reserve talk? That's what I want to know. I thought that we're going to do all these tariffs and get a bunch of money and put that into crypto. Guess not. I heard that guy Bobby crashed the market. Again, my friend Bobby is an idiot. He can't do any of that stuff. Oh, yeah. Jimmy says, so I wonder if U.S. users don't typically use leverage since U.S. exchanges do not allow leverage. I wonder how much wealth was transferred from non-U.S. investors on the dip. That's the great thing about DEXs, you know. You throw in and I would never do this. My friend Bobby would. But he would, you know, you throw up a VPN, go to Aster, go to Hyperliquid, start gambling like crazy. You can lose a lot of money. A lot of crypto, that's for sure. Bitcoin Core are bought and paid for. Run knots if you want to save Bitcoin. There you go. And I think I'll leave it here. Crypto Eli says, I'm running for the hills in January. That could be probably sound advice. We'll find out. Anyhow, that's it for today, everybody. So thanks so much for hanging with me for about 36 minutes. I appreciate you. If you like today's video, like and subscribe. That's it for this one, and I will see you guys mañana. Have a great day. Adios.